The year is 1999. The Y2K disaster is in a short 20 years. Konami has released a new survival horror game on the PlayStation, a game scarier than any other at the time. A game that would stand to change the survival horror genre forever. That's right, Silent Hill. Credited as the first fully 3D survival horror game by the guy who wrote this page on the Silent Hill wiki. Wait, it says here the game Overblood was actually first, but it doesn't count because it's not scary? That's not really how that works. Whatever. I've heard other YouTubers say that this game is some sort of masterpiece. But you know what? I think I'll be the judge of that. So sit back and enjoy the show as I take you through Silent Hill. Now, this title. What the hell is this title? Silent Hill? It's not a bad title. Like, it rolls off the tongue. It's nice to say. It's memorable. But what an inappropriate name. Silent Hill is one of the most remarkably flat games I've ever played. Silent? Sure. The game can be silent. Hill? There are no hills. You could call Super Mario 64 Silent Hill and it would be more fitting. At least there's hills in that game. Seriously, where's the hill? But anyway, on to the actual game. This game opens with a CG cutscene showing our main character Harry Mason driving on his way to take his daughter Cheryl on vacation to Silent Hill, a small old town with a large modern resort attached to it. Out of the blue, a girl appears in the road. Swerving out of the way, Harry drives his car off the road and blacks out. When he awakes, he finds his daughter Cheryl is missing, and there's an out-of-season snow and thick fog covering the town. Harry sets out to find his daughter and face whatever dangers he finds. I think this is a really solid setup for a horror game. It's simple, but gives clear motivation for why Harry would need to brave such dangers as a town. Plus, I think anyone can understand his motivation. Why a father would be worried about his missing daughter? So I would say the setup for this game is pretty good. However, it falters in the execution most of the time. Although, let me qualify that in saying that I'm mostly talking about the poor voice acting. The script is fine. The cutscenes are too. But it's hard to take the game seriously when any of the characters even open their mouths. The dialogue most of the time is poorly paced and stilted, and the emotion that should be in it is just not there. Harry just lost his daughter. His daughter! And this town is filled with fucking monsters, for God's sake. He should be frantic. He should be running around like crazy. But most of the time he talks about his daughter like he would ask where the bathroom is at a job interview.
Have you seen a little girl anywhere? I'm looking for my daughter. She's only 7, short, black hair.
She's missing. I'm sorry. But with all those monsters around, I highly doubt that she's... Sorry, I didn't mean to alarm you.
The voice acting is one of the most detrimental things to this game. Silent Hill is a very atmospheric, often scary game. So when you have voice acting that takes you out of the game, that's a big issue. On the bright side, there isn't that much voice acting you need to listen to when playing the game. But when the best thing you can say about an element of a game is, there isn't much of this in the game, you're really fucked up. In fact, the story itself takes a backseat for most of the game, which is fine. While I'm glad there isn't too much voice acting, I'm fine with there not being much story because it simply isn't very necessary. Silent Hill does a good job of giving you just enough details when you need them to keep you engaged and make you feel like you're making progress to the game, even if they aren't presented very well. Though I think the issue is, again, just the voice acting. Another thing that sucks is these controls. These controls make me want to stick a catheter tube up my dick and suck on it till I see Jupiter. But that doesn't actually describe why the controls are bad, huh? This game uses tank controls. If that doesn't mean anything to you, imagine you took a car and you jammed the forward and reverse into the steering wheel. It's balls to control. It feels imprecise, and I always either seem to press the wrong direction while turning or just turn way too far. Why can't I just move in the direction I pressed instead of playing like someone who controls like they're in a wheelchair? At that point, just stick Harry in a wheelchair. He was in a car crash anyway, so it would make sense with regards to the story. Another problem stems from the unholy union of tank controls and fixed camera angles. Tank controls can be fine when the camera is right behind the player, But when it changes midway when walking through a room, I feel like I'm the unwilling occupant of a carnival ride. Pressing L2 enters search mode, which makes the camera go behind Harry. But in some rooms, it just moves the camera wildly and uselessly instead, as if Lakitu got distracted. Even the manual says that it just doesn't work in some rooms. What the fuck? Why not? The game is fully 3D and not pre-rendered like Resident Evil, so I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work in every room in the game. Maybe that was just a joke by the developers. Speaking of getting distracted, the atmosphere in this game, well, it's nice. Well, actually, it isn't nice, but it's not supposed to be, so that's good. It's gloomy, foggy, nerve-wracking. Claustrophobic is a really good word to describe almost the entirety of this game, even outdoors. Indoor areas in the game, they're tight and cramped, and outdoors so foggy you'd think the main character is extremely nearsighted. You never really know what's lurking out of eyesight, and it really works well for building anticipation and anxiety within the player. You switch between two worlds in this game, a normal and dark world. I think something a lot of horror tends to miss is quiet anticipation, a calm before the storm, if you will. The normal world does a great job with this. In the normal world, most of the time it's just you running around in a quiet, foggy town, occasionally interrupted by the sound of your staticky radio. It's not super scary, but it builds the anticipation it needs to, and when the world starts to go dark, then you know shit's about to go down. The fog turns into pure darkness. The world becomes a rusty metal hellscape, and my undies start to turn a sort of brownish color. Not really sure how that one happens. You get an aural change too, complete with sounds of sirens, and some asshole in the background who likes to only play the scary sounding chords on the piano. It's enough to cause anxiety in a big, strong man like me. More than once during these segments, I thought to myself, I gotta get out of here. 20 years later, the game is still frightening, a testament to its design. While the spooks hold up over 20 years later, other parts of the game do not. Most of the time, you're going around fighting enemies, solving puzzles, and collecting items to use in other locations. Yeah, I know I just described 90% of video games out there, but hear me out. The combat outside of the bosses is boring and easy. Most enemies are useless and can't hurt you if you just run by them, which is what I did after my first playthrough. And I know I sound like I'm excluding the bosses when I say the enemies are boring and easy in this game, but that's not my intention. The bosses are also boring and easy, but instead of just running from them as you would normal enemies, the strategy is to just plant your ass in one spot and unload all the ammo you can into them. The problem is, the movement is so bad in this game, it's not like you can really dodge the boss's attacks if you wanted to. Not on reaction at least, so you either need to spend your time running away from the bosses, getting hit in the ass with projectiles, or just keep shooting them and heal as you need. Healing isn't a problem in this game. It's not like Monster Hunter or Dark Souls where you are vulnerable when you're using a healing item. All you have to do is pop open the menu real quick and use one, then unpause the game and keep shooting. There's not even limited inventory space either, like in Resident Evil. So, when you need to heal, you'll probably have the healing items, because as I said earlier, the game is not that difficult. One enemy that's worth mentioning is the final boss. For some reason, they designed it so you couldn't hit it with melee attacks. But then, if you run out of ammo, the boss will just kill itself? What an unsatisfying way to finish a game. Is it funny? Yeah, it's kind of funny. But imagine if you were just playing this game normally. You get to this point, you run out of ammo, you run around trying to figure out how to finish the boss off, and it just dies. You'd go, oh, what the hell was that? Why'd it do that? From a story standpoint, it's actually pretty funny too. It's not just funny because you're fighting the final boss and it kills itself. This lady and all of these people in this cult, they spent so much time and energy trying to resurrect their deity, all to find out that it was suicidal the whole time.
Cheryl.
I mean, that's pretty good. It's not a very satisfying final boss or conclusion to a game, but it is kind of funny if you think about it. I'll give it that. It's funny. I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it's pretty funny. Now, the biggest issue with this game is its design of find thing here, then go do thing over here. Now, I believe the game was designed like this to get the player from one point of atmospheric interest to another, forcing the player to experience the game as the developers intended, or not be able to progress. Now, I don't exactly have a problem with this on a fundamental level. I think this method of game design works for what the developers intended, to force the player to experience the world with some very light problem solving and combat to provide a moderately engaging experience that would not interrupt experiencing the meat and potatoes of the game, the atmosphere, which really is the main event. However, the biggest problem is when this fails and starts to get in the way of experiencing the atmosphere. Here's an example. One of the earliest parts of the game requires you to get a key to a house. The key is located right outside the house inside a doghouse. But what gets me is that I found the doghouse and inspected it. The only thing I received was the message, probably a doghouse, though I'm not sure since there's no dog around, which, one, is a very odd thing to say considering there's a dog literally right next to the doghouse, and two, I inspected the doghouse, now give me the key. Like, what the fuck? I went to the exact place I needed to, and I didn't get anything to happen. I inspected the doghouse because it looked suspicious, but nothing happened. Actually, I was supposed to find a note on the end of some random street telling me to inspect the doghouse. Guess I'm just supposed to wander around till I find that. Great game design. I can't do the thing I was supposed to do until I find something that tells me to do the thing that I was trying to do in the first place. A similar thing happens in the school. I need to get a key from a hole in the ground by flooding the hole with water. You can't turn the water on until you find the hole, but I didn't see that hole. I saw another hole, but I didn't see that one. So, instead of being able to turn the water on, which would have helped me see the other hole and understand what I'm trying to do, I spent 30 minutes running around the school, checking all the different rooms to see if I could find what I was supposed to do to progress, which, that was just super fun. This completely took me out of the game and was just a horrible experience overall, and all just because of some hard-to-see hole on the dark ground. There's also just some various weird things I noticed, like in the hospital. The area map is behind the front desk, which has no way to get behind it from the current room. From a gameplay perspective, I really like this. You get to see the object you want and then plot your course out to it with some basic understanding of how to get over to it. But just think about it realistically. Who the hell designed a hospital where you would need to go through a fucking examination room to get behind the reception desk? Imagine you're getting your balls fondled by some doctor during an exam, and some receptionist just shimmies through the room on his way to lunch. That would suck. That would suck my balls. My balls that are getting fondled. Fuck that guy. Fuck the guy who designed this building. Another weird thing I noticed is there's a part of the game where you find a basketball hoop with a backboard and it's smeared with blood. When you inspect the bloody pile underneath it, it reads, a dog's head. I like this a lot. The game just shows you something and lets it rest. It doesn't tell you what happened or how to feel. You can figure out what happened from context. Obviously, like, come on. It's pretty obvious what happened. But having to put something together, no matter how simple it is, pushes the information further into your gray matter and makes it stick. But, while I can praise the presentation of this detail all day, who the heck was playing basketball with the dog's head? Was it him? Or was it her? Did these dogs do it? I mean, it's neat. I like this detail and I like the presentation, but who was doing this? There's like 5 characters in the whole game, and one of them apparently likes to play basketball with a dog's head. That's kind of fucked up. Now I'd like to talk about the puzzles in this game. They're pretty damn good. One of my favorite parts of the game, actually. The puzzles in this game have a really good way of distracting you from the problem in a way that obfuscates it, while not completely sidetracking. For example, there's a puzzle in the school having to do with the piano. You need to play 5 keys on the piano in a particular order, and you're given a riddle. There are 5 keys with blood on them, so you're going to try those first. But those don't work. You need to find the silent keys, which is referenced in the title of the riddle, and you need to play those in a particular order. What I thought was really smart, though, was that the developers overlapped one of the silent keys and one of the bloody keys. So at some point, all the players would be made aware of the existence of the silent keys, which are the ones that you need to solve the puzzle. The developers did this to mislead you with a red herring, or, a red key, if you will. But they also point in the right direction while they're at it, which is why I think this is such a good puzzle. Another puzzle that I really liked at the end of the game was one that had to do with the zodiac. You're given a bunch of zodiac symbols and numbers. At first, I incorrectly assumed that the number was related to the month or the order that the signs would be in. But after looking up the astrological calendar, I realized that the numbers in the pictures wouldn't make any sense. After inspecting the pictures for a little while longer, I realized the developers used the zodiac pictures to hide the fact that the numbers were indicative of the number of limbs the picture had, Libra being 2, Pisces being 0, Cancer being 10, etc. The developers took something normally associated with certain numbers and used it for something unrelated. They take your expectations and just twist them a little enough to confuse you, while the solution is actually just staring you right in the face, as long as you pay attention. I think that's what really impressed me about the puzzles, and why I think that's one of the best parts of this game. Now, how else to end this review than by talking about the endings of the game a little bit? There are 4 regular endings, plus a bonus ending. The endings are good plus, and bad plus. You get a good ending if you save the character Kaufman and find the vial of liquid he has in the resort area. You can get the plus for not killing the character Sybil in her boss fight. The developers were actually somewhat clever with how you can get the endings. There is some liquid you can pick up early in the game that you need to collect in order to use on Sybil. Even if you collect the unknown liquid, you won't know where to use it until you get the good ending and learn what it even is. So you would either need to replay the game once or twice, depending on whether or not you managed to get a good ending the first time around. The developers also have a rank system and other various additions you can find on subsequent playthroughs to encourage you to replay the game. But I just don't see the point. Even though it only took me about 3 hours to replay the game, it wasn't fun. I was blasting through the game so fast I ignored the atmosphere, and I knew all the puzzle solutions, which, in my opinion, are really the best parts of this game. In fact, the only thing you're rewarded with for getting better endings, besides a couple of weapons in New Fear mode, is more story. And while I do appreciate getting a better understanding of what is happening and why, it's presented with all the awkwardness of a mediocre 90s video game voice acting cast, and usually just stands to ruin any tension the game might have had. My favorite ending is actually just the straight bad ending. It requires you to do nothing extra, is the creepiest, and has the least amount of awkward dialogue. Now honestly, that's all I can really ask for. I have to wonder if the choice to try and make this game more replayable was because the developers were worried that people would feel ripped off with only an 8-hour game with very little replayability without the additional endings. Now, after saying all that about this game, can we really say that Silent Hill is a masterpiece? Well, I would say that it is, in certain aspects. The atmosphere is honestly fantastic. It's some of the best I've ever seen in a video game. But there are so many other aspects of the game. The action just doesn't work. The story is okay, but the voice acting does not carry the story in the way that it needs to. The puzzles are really good, but then there's other parts, like the exploration, which can fall flat occasionally. So is Silent Hill a masterpiece? Not all the way through, but in certain parts. Overall, no. But it is a very good game, and a very good playthrough, even if there's a lot of areas where it falls flat. I would recommend playing the game, but maybe just playing it the one time. You might only manage to get one playthrough out of this game, but it's a damn good playthrough. Hey, thanks for making it all the way through this review. It took a lot of time, not gonna lie. I'm new to this whole YouTube thing. This is my first time making a video like this. I think it turned out pretty well, actually. But, it gives me a whole new respect for YouTubers. It took a long time to fucking make this. It's a lot of work. My next one will be quicker. Not that anyone had any expectation of when this video would come out. I do other reviews on thecourtoflordjoe.com. I got other people writing reviews over there too. So we try to get those out on a semi-regular basis. A little bit shorter type reviews. I'll probably do longer reviews on the channel and then shorter opinion pieces over there. But hey, more stuff for you to check out so you can see how fucking, how bad my takes are. Also, I just want to say I have a newfound appreciation for speedrunners. I played through this game like 3 times, and I am sick of it. I can't imagine people grinding out thousands of attempts on the same game. Those people are crazy. So, shout out to all the speedrunners out there. You guys are crazy. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Take that as you will. But I think you are clinically insane. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Next review should be out. Give it a month. Remember to like and subscribe.